ever seen me? How can
Hello guys, David Vose here. Well, it was a beautiful day today. Worked on my truck some more, got that all taken care of, and went to town, checked the mail, and came back and decided I had enough time to do a video, a short video. And I saw this on a Tiki-Talkie, and I thought, well, that is a very good question. And I thought maybe I should look the question up and see if they've got an answer. So here's what I did. I went to the Goggle Brothers. I thought, okay, I'll look it up on AI. And surely there is an explanation that I'm not aware of, that I can't see just offhand. Surely they're going to have some explanation. At least it'll sound like they know what they're talking about. So AI said a mirror doesn't see anything, but rather reflects light. Okay? So far, I get it, but you're kind of being sarcastic. I didn't mean see, obviously, when I asked the question. And the reflection you see is based on the angle of the light bouncing off the mirror surface. Again, we already knew that before we asked the question. If a person is behind a towel, and I don't think they're going to explain it properly because they're saying behind a towel, and that could mean 2-3 feet behind the towel. But I mean literally, as you saw in the video, somebody can put their head right up against the towel, right on top of the mirror, and block the mirror's ability to have any reflection because the towel's right on blocking the mirror. There's no way that a mirror blocked with a towel could reflect anything. But you get on the side and you look at the person in the mirror, it looks like, because around the mirror, you still got some mirror showing. Around the mirror, there should be then everything in the room, that piece of glass would, if you use geometry, you'd see whether any ray from any area of light that would be coming from her image behind the towel could not, her face, which is literally like one of her eyeballs, you might be looking on the side and seeing the back of her hair, maybe the end of her glasses, but you're not seeing her nose and eyes. It's behind the towel. There's no way. It's funny, the frame around the towel of the mirror that's still vacant, I get it can reflect everything. You don't need the rest of the mirror. But why does it magically show or make the illusion that you can see behind the mirror? Now think about that. It just gives you a one angle, perfect, normal angle. Like you're just looking at a person. There's no breaks in the shadows, or like a broken glass or anything, like pieces put together like a thousand mirrors in a circus, right? But just somehow or another, everything in that room, including the dark area around your nose pressed up against the towel, is going to bounce around, boop, 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 somehow find an angle off of one corner of the room. This is my explanation. They don't actually give this explanation. They don't go this deep. They act like they don't know what to think about it. They're just trying to explain to you why there's a reflection in the mirror. Okay, we know why. It's angles and light and all that. But how does the angle or the light coming from your face or your nose, how does it shoot back, bounce off the wall behind you, would be the only way, and then shoot around you? And somehow all this shooting from every angle of hitting the wall behind you that's partially blocked by a fixture or a painting or different kind of material on the wall, or the wall breaks and it goes into another room or whatever, nothing, everything is immediately bouncing off everything from all different angles so that somehow you can get your nose to bounce back and around you and back into that frame of mirror around the towel. And when you're standing there looking at it, miraculously, it all looks like one perfect picture. Like you can see behind you, behind your towel, behind your mirror, you can see everything like you're looking at it from the other side. And you can see your nose and glasses and everything else. Now, I just described it in such a way, especially after what we read here in just a second, read the rest of this, from what they're saying, and then I think you know that, okay, I'm covering all my bases, because they're not going to give you anything other thing to consider in their little diatribe. So evidently there's not much to consider other than light travels in straight lines, and if it hits an angle, it'll bounce in a specific degree angle or whatever. But I think that's kind of it. So you have to imagine that all these shadows and parts of your body is radiating out, or light itself from the room is shining on you from behind you, wherever, and then reflecting off of your body. The light is I don't know why your body didn't just absorb it all, but it's, I guess, reflected. The image is reflected into the mirror, so I guess it's your body light that's reflecting, or the light itself is reflecting off of you. But then why wouldn't it just be a flash of light in the mirror? Why is it a picture of you? It's your reflection. Why doesn't all the light drown your reflection out? But no, the mirror sees exactly what you would see looking back at it. So the only possible reason for that is that your physical, everything in that room is made of some kind of glowing, heat radiation that's radiating back and making an image on the mirror. We know that it's from a light, and light is going to hit something that's at an angle and shoot off at another angle in the opposite direction. So it's light that we're talking about. Well, are we saying my body is light, or just that the light that's in the room is shining all around and hitting and bouncing off of everything? And I guess absorbing off of a lot of this stuff, especially black. The darker colors. Light colors are supposed to be like a mirror. Silver is just reflecting it all. Doesn't even hardly get hot. It just bounces off. Just bing, bing, right? So that mirror is so mirror-like because of its color and shine that it's just picking up the reflection of everything in the room from so many thousand different angles. Because that mirror is seeing things behind it. Because evidently the light is shining and bouncing off all around this room. Your bathroom or whatever. Shining everywhere. And therefore some of the light rays are going to land behind the mirror. Just, or right at the edge of the mirror, and then bounce. Somehow it's going to... And think about this. There's nothing in the mirror, even though it looks 3D. Inside the mirror that you're looking at, it looks 3D. It looks like you could walk right in there, but you're going to hit the mirror. It's a wall, right? But when you look at it from that angle, it looks like everything in the mirror is like walking into the bathroom, but on the other side of the mirror. Okay, of course, Dave, we know this. What are you talking about? But think about it. So everything in the bathroom is reflected in the mirror in its proportion, right exactly where it should be, even if for that piece of information, the angle of the light had to have been completely different and bounced several times to get that, well, like we're talking about behind the towel. But forget the towel. Just anything in the room is going to all magically appear in perfect proportion. And here's the crazy thing. If you shine a light in the bathroom, like a flashlight, it's going to go straight because it's following the laws of physics that we understand. Light's going out of your flashlight and going across the room, it's going to be a straight beam. But you look in the mirror and it's a straight beam. Perfect. And you can see the light there, and it can't be operating on the same angle, is what I'm saying. Because everything outside in real life, the light is shooting all over the place. Obviously, proven by the fact that we can see behind the mirror. So it's just shooting everywhere and collecting this information and then putting it on the mirror as if it was just all proportionately reality, and you could walk right in there. And not only does it look like reality, but I'm saying that there are physical properties, physical axioms taking place in that mirror, aside and apart from the science and the axioms that we abide by in reality. Because in reality, we just know that light travels at a certain speed, and there's certain angles, and all this is all Newtonian physics. But who's ever added to the Newtonian physics the concept that if you were to image that information by shooting bits and pieces of its reflection in 1,000 trillion million jillion angles and get them all to keep bouncing around until they bounce back on the screen, and they would all make magically a perfect picture where, after all that rigmarole back and forth between the bouncing and the rays and the angles and back into a mirror and into a room that appears to be there but we know is not actually there, it's just an illusion. But in this illusion, there are physical laws taking place that's causing the light to shine and travel at the same speed and all the angles to work out harmoniously as they would here. As if all this reality, the image is what we're looking at of this reality, didn't go bing like marbles all over the universe and then bing, 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 1,000 light years away and back again and slam back onto this mirror and all hit the target. See, mathematically that wouldn't work. If you had a drawing of a chicken coop, I'm looking at my chicken coop, on a piece of paper, and you wanted it 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet or whatever, and you wanted your yard to be 20 feet by 20 feet by 20 feet, you know, your chicken's in this square pen, and you had that on the paper to that, in that, you know, measurement system. You're using inches and feet. Well, somebody tells you now we're going to do it in metric. Now you got to figure it out. It requires different math, you see. And not just to figure it out, but if we're going to take this light and say that it takes 1 second for the light to go straight across the room, but it might take like 10 seconds if we had to ricochet it 4 or 5 times. Boom, bang, bang, ding. Should take longer. Things should be warped and out of its proportion. So here I've got my little map, and I know what I'm going to build. But I hold my building up to a mirror, and the laws of all of my reality that are incorporated, you know, imagine that the diagram I drew was of a thing I'm going to build in a world that has one set of laws. And so there's all the measurements, and there's the map, and there's the design. So I know how to build it, the instructions. I hold it up to a mirror, and the instructions are exactly the same, even though they're being reflected back from another world. Been they were transformed into a billion marbles, thrown out into the universe, and came back, and boom. While I'm watching this illusion, I see the person walk by in the real world, and the image of the person that walked by went right across my vision. Now, there's a candle burning on the other side of the room. As the person walked by, from my angle, she blocked the candle. From where I'm sitting, I'm taking the picture. But the mirror is going to see it from what angle? My perspective? A million other beings' perspective? When is the mirror going to decide that the flame behind the person cannot be seen? You'd have to know at what angle that person was going to interfere with the candle's reflection. And since the mirror sees it from every angle, the light is beam flipping around, and it's got to shine off the back of your head, hit the wall, back to the other wall, maybe 10 or 15 other million times, and back to that little frame of mirror around your towel. And when it hits again, the back of your head, it flips it around and puts the back of your head where it's supposed to go in the picture, in the front of your head. And bam, you can see the front of the head, the back of the head. Like everything can be seen. So when you're looking in the mirror, you are going to see a lot of things that the light wouldn't be able to get. Let's face it. We don't know how it reflects and goes over there. We don't know. But not only that, it knows to show you a picture of this illusion of the reality. It shows you the moment in that picture of reality that is your exact perspective where you're standing. You see? So in other words, you're interacting in the real world, in this angles and stuff, with a world that doesn't exist. The angles still continue on in that world too, even though there's no laws in that world. Why shouldn't all the light just go bing, and when it gets to the mirror, just go bling and just make white light? Why does it conform to all these images? It somehow knows, like there's other copies from other angles. There's cameras somewhere else that the subconscious mind can see. Because I'm looking at you, and in the reality, when I see you, not the mirror of you, but I'm taking a picture, and you got your head behind the towel, and I can see only one side of you that I can see. I don't see the reflection of your back of your head. I'm only going to see light's going to travel to my eyes at the one angle that light always travels, straight. And if it hits something and bounces off at an angle, then we could calculate where it would go scientifically. And we know that light don't bounce off the back of your head and hit the wall, and somehow I can see it. Not physically. Maybe I can subconsciously. I know people, when they have near-death experiences, leave their body, and they can see everything going on in the room with their mind's eye. So maybe that's what the mind's eye is, taking pictures of it. And maybe when you're looking at the mirror and you see the person there, you're not really seeing it. It's just your mind is remembering it. It's you. It's all within you. It's not in the physical world. The physical world is not real. It's just us. It's all within us. It's imagining. It's images, illusions, like relativity. You see particles, but you look away and it's not a particle anymore. They've proven that. It's only a particle when you're observing it. And here we are with another proof case that it's far more than just little particles that act this way. The thing that you're seeing in the mirror is because you need to see it. You desire to see it. You make it happen in your mind. You believe it, you can't imagine in your mind, if you were looking at it, your mind wouldn't say, well, scientifically, we wouldn't be able to see it. So it's just going to be a blur and choppy up pictures. And no, it's got to make sense So your mind just makes it make sense and you see everything. Not from the reality of this physical world, not from the physics that was in this world, went into the mirror and acted the same way and in a delusion, right? Made the same right turns and the light went the same speed and all is just found its place and knew where to live in that reality. Even though that reality is not supposed to be subject to law and order. But the delusion that we see is also subject to law and order by virtue of the fact that even we are in charge of that which doesn't exist. It has to obey us there too. If we want to imagine something exists in a place that don't exist, we can just imagine some place that don't exist and put our stuff that we want to pretend exists and put it in there and see it just the way we want to see it, the way it would make sense. You say, well, how come I can't tell that tree to go jump up in the air and land on his head? Well, because we have certain, you can theoretically, you are in charge of everything, but we live in a conscious mind. We have a much bigger mind, but we don't live there all the time. It's there when we need it. We don't want to live in the all. Sometimes we like to go, at night we go to sleep, we dream. We have resting times where we do release ourselves from this conscious restrictions that we see here. What we've decided, we've all consciously, collectively decided we're going to believe that ground is firm and trees are beautiful and flowers are pretty and grass is green and the sky is blue. So we believe that. So belief forms the reality of it. That's why the Bible talks about moving mountains. It's symbolic of moving a mountain of desire to do something. Deciding you want to change your mind, your belief systems, because the most firm thing you can find is the ground. And something that's exalted like a mountain from the ground is a firm foundational idea that grows into a huge like government of things that you believe firmly. They're your complete foundation of all the animals and the birds and the reptiles and the fish and everything. All the world needs a habitat, needs something to dwell in, the foundation. And so the birds land in the trees that grow on the mountain, and they eat the seeds from the trees, and the animals live and get shelter under the tree, and in the tree when it falls down, they burrow out a little place to sleep. The reptiles, the bugs, the termites, all the little animals in this little kingdom, in the whole world, takes refuge on the mountain. And one of the towering things after the mountain would be, the next in charge would be the tree, the largest tree, because that would be the home of many individuals, and they get fruit and seeds from the tree and shade and protection. And trees can provide you with firewood and keep you warm, it's energy. And so trees are kind of like a mountain in the sense that there's something, it represents something that's pretty permanent. Not like the grass that comes to, one year and it's gone the next, and the Bible says it's temporary. You cut it down, you make bread out of it and you eat it and it goes into the sewer. But it's not, it's here today and gone tomorrow. It's not permanent. Mountains are a far more permanent. That's the ideas that we put together that we've got the foundation for. Solid this here and fluid and all these physical laws of the universe. So we don't, even though we are the boss, we can at any time suspend those laws. We have to get mastery over a lot of things before we got to that point. But with humans, they don't even always need to have that much faith, because if you have just a little bit of faith and you cry out, the angels hear you, and they understand sometimes, that they need to give you a little bit help a little more help than somebody else, or maybe not as much for you as somebody else. But some people need more help than others because they're at a different state or stage in their advancement in this game we call life. And the game is an adventure. It's hard. The prize is eternal joy and everlasting peace. Absolute, pure nirvana, which means to the end of the ages, when all of this pursuit will be past, and we'll have accomplished and received all of our white robes and crowns and badges and honorable mentions and tassels and until we get to the last test and we pass that and we get the golden key that unlocks the next adventure, which could take 100 times a trillion years for the next adventure. And of course, it would probably have more colors and more, advanced dimensional concepts to it. It's more beautiful, obviously. Maybe not, since it might take longer, maybe it won't be a world that you have to suffer so much, because you're not worried about really progressing in a matter of one generation to a stand straight up tall talk and love, right? But you're going to go through the caveman stage too, right? It's going to take a little while, but maybe 1,000,000 years or something. But maybe in the next stages, it'll be more like a more pleasant experience where you're not going to get as much gain as we did this last one, going from death to life, which was pretty big. That was a big one, passing over death to life. A world we just keep being incarnated over and over again to living forever. That's a big change. But when we live forever, there's still going to be progress, because some will be like that of the sun, like that of the moon, and others like those of the stars. Each star differeth in star and glory. There's a gradual eternal progression. So a world with a little bit more pleasure, a little bit more joy and peace. So more artistic behavior. We're still going to be very energetic and working, but not with more material hard labor type things, but more scientific experiments and painting and art and music will be our classroom in the next world. But anyway, I don't know. I really think that I would like to explore this whole thing with the reflection of the light. I know a lot of people might go and ask a scientist and they'll say, oh, there's the answer. Well, I don't really think they're going to come up with a real good answer. Let me finish reading this. It says, the light from the person still reaches the mirror and reflects. Yes, that's what we were talking about. Allowing you to see their image. But why does the image look perfectly straight in the right dimensions and all of that when you're looking around? Even if the towel is partially obscuring it. No, in this case, we're talking about the towel is completely all the way obscuring it. So they're not getting the point. Light and reflection, light travels in straight lines. Okay, that's the point, which proves that there's something going on here. If it only travels in straight lines, then the light on your nose touching the towel cannot, in a straight line, get to the mirror, unless it bounces off the back wall 14 times or something. So it says mirrors are designed to reflect high percentage of light. Yeah, that's true. We talked about that. The key to a mirror's ability to reflect light is the smooth surface. Okay, great. You're so smart. The angle at which light strikes a surface, the angle of incidence, is equal to the angle at which it is reflected, the angle of reflection. Well, yeah, we've talked about that as well, which proves that there's something else going on here. And seeing behind a towel, when you look at a mirror, light from your body or the person behind the towel travels to the mirror. How? Unless it bounces off the wall behind her, is reflected. Yeah. It travels to the mirror, is reflected, and travels to your eyes. Right, but that's a straight shot. What if your eyes are on the side of the wall behind a towel? But if there is still light reaching the mirror from the person, you will see their reflection. Well, yeah, they're just stating a fact because we all seen it is true. But why is the question? They're not answering why. It's important to remember that the mirror isn't an intelligent object that knows what's behind the towel. It's simply reflecting the light that is reaching its surface. Well, yeah, that's the point. But somebody knows, and it must be our higher consciousness that knows it. Just like when we die and we know that we're rising up from our body and we can see all the doctors and the nurses talking about that we just died. And we can see that, but not with our physical eyes. It's a knowing. Somebody else, something is seeing it, and we have access to those images. But people, when they're in their conscious mind, it's very difficult for them to be able to remember how to access their or higher consciousness. Learning to do that literally brings back the memories of your past lives and means that you now are immortal. And immortal means that you had no beginning and no end. And that's what it'll be, because we'll then remember our beginning and we'll have the end from the beginning. Anywho, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. Hope you have a wonderful evening, guys. May the Lord bless you. And He certainly will. May His grace and peace be with you. We'll see you tomorrow.